Don't worry at all. I'll give you time to talk about the economy.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me just quickly state that you asked us to talk about our manifestos.
Yes.
He spent 6 minutes lamenting and talking about other things. He's not pointed one thing from their manifesto.
Oh, no, you didn't tell me to talk about my manifesto.
Well, that's what it was.
You asked me what the importance of manifesto was.
Bobo, I beg you.
No, but that's exactly the question you asked me.
That was the question.
I've tried.
Please, you let him finish. There's time, so don't worry.
The manifesto is empty, it's plagiarized, and it's driven by a lot of AI content.
Their manifesto.
I'm telling you.
You've taken the pains to do all of that work.
Absolutely, and I can give you instances and evidence of saying, okay, and since you say we have time, I'm sure we'll come to that. But I'll just tell you one thing. If Bobo sits here and says that the NDC promised one-time premium, the NDC was bold enough to come out and say to the Ghanaian people, we're sorry, we got that wrong. That's what leadership is about. We came out and said, look, we thought we could do this, we can't do it. It's a policy we are shelving. They can keep re-trumpeting it. But Ghanaians remember, and he says that they fulfill their promises. Ghanaians remember that in the NPP's manifesto for 2016, they promised that they were going to turn Nima from slums into high-rise buildings. That's what they promised. And even their commentators said, oh, because President Anado lives in Nima, they're going to make it high-rise buildings. They promised to change chop bars into world-class restaurants. They promised that they will put boats on the Odo, the way the Odo is smelling today. They promised that we're going to catch Chile and all the kinds of fishes that you catch in the sea in there, and we're going to put boats. That's your promise. Look, but we're not going to be swayed. For me, we handed over a robust economy, an economy on the bounce, an economy that was functional to the NPP, an economy that was on the right track. We had found 2 new oil wells that were being used for exploration. This economy has tanked in 7 years and 8 months. They've destroyed it. But there is hope, because we're going to reset the economy. And that's why our manifesto is called Resetting Ghana. One of the first things that we're going to do is to look at the obnoxious taxes that have been introduced.
But over the years, Sam George, over the years, what has been the benefit of these manifestos? I mean, for instance, you are saying that their manifesto is empty, meaning it's not something that we should even decide to abide by or take into consideration.
Their manifesto, not our manifesto. Every party has this manifesto. And I'm just going to quickly, and that's why 2 nights ago or 2 days ago in Winneba, we did something there. President Mahama made a social contract with the Ghanaian people. His first 120 days. It's our social contract. The manifesto covers our 4-year span. But in the first 120 days, our people say, Agobesoa, Efriamapa. We've been very clear. In the first 120 days, he's going to nominate his cabinet ministers, full cabinet ministers, in the first 14 days. He's going to run the leanest and most efficient government in the First Republic in 90 days. In 90 days, the setup of government will be complete pending parliamentary approval. We're going to establish a robust code of conduct and standards for all government officials, because clearly there is none in this current administration. It's led to the free-for-all plain thievery. Can't call it any other thing. I know Bobo is not happy when I talk about thievery in government. He thinks that it's not good. But what's going on under this government is plain thievery. And people will be held accountable for that. Let's say that for the record. In the first 120 days, we will hold a national economic dialogue to discuss the true state of the economy and prepare a homegrown fiscal consolidation program to guide the budget. Within the first 90 days, we're going to scrap the e-levy. We're going to scrap the COVID levy. We're going to scrap the 10% levy on bet winnings, and we're going to scrap the emissions levy. These are concrete promises in a social contract. 120 days. In fact, these levies will be scrapped in 90 days. Within the first 90 days in office, President Mahama is going to review all the taxes and levies on vehicles and equipment imported into this country for industry and agric. Because for us, industrialization is a key part of what we're going to do, and agri-processing is a key thing.
The party stuck by their manifestos over
and I'm saying
years.
to you that, Sarah, 120 days. I'm not even looking at the full manifesto now. I'm telling you specifics of our 120
Yes.
days. And I stick my neck out here that on the 1st of May, which would have been the end of the first 4 months of our governance, I will come back and sit here with your permission if you invite me.
Yes.
I think 1st May would most likely be a holiday, but if you're Workers' Day. But if you're going to be having a show, I will come back here and you can bring Bobo. God spare our lives, and let's go back through this economic social contract.
That is
I'm reading out.
That is if you win.
I'm confident that we're winning.
Okay. Well, he is also confident that they'll win.
In the first 120 days, we would commence the drafting for the needed legal amendments to implement the 24-hour economy policy directly under the office of the president. In the first 120 days, we're going to set up an accelerated export development council that's going to be part of our broader strategy for economic transformation. In the first 120 days, we're going to convene a national consultative forum on education to build consensus on the needed improvement. Clearly, in the first 120 days, the president is going to implement the no academic fee policy. That's going to make sure that all first-year students in our tertiary institutions that will go into university and all the colleges of education in 2025 will go in free first year, and this includes universities, colleges of education, nursing training institutions, polytechnics. All of them are going to go. We're going to introduce the free tertiary education for persons with disabilities.
All right, Sam, it's
and the
time.
most
The
important
5
thing
minutes
is
time.
the most important. I'm landing here.
Land, yes.
You know, in America they have Obamacare. Obamacare is one of the flagship things that people remember President Obama for, because it provided healthcare coverage to persons who hitherto did not have coverage. We're introducing Mahama-Care, and Mahama-Care is going to make sure that the sad scenes at Kolebu Renal Facility, where under this government they're able to spend $58 million, over 300 million to dig a hole in the ground, but they can't find 4 million, and the renal facility keeps closing.
Thank you.
And our citizens are dying. We're going to deal with that.
Okay,
and
so
fix that.
since I wanted us to introduce the manifesto conversation, because last week Sunday we saw the NPP launch theirs, calling it the bold solutions for jobs and businesses. The NDC on Saturday launched theirs, calling it resetting Ghana. Yeah. Right? Okay. Now,
jobs, accountability, and prosperity for all. Jobs, very important.
Okay.
Jobs.
Now, I mean, this is a running story, and there are many thematic areas to be discussed. And so you know that we'll be discussing it all week. In fact, up until the election time, which is about 103 days more. But there are some areas that I want us to focus on, because for instance, the promise of fulfilling certain things within 120 days or 100 days of being in office is part of the manifesto. Yesterday, and they have a document circulating on what they intend to do. The NPP doesn't have a document, but yesterday at that Meet the Press, the Vice President was asked the question on what he intends to do in the first 100 days if he becomes president, and he listed quite a number of things. So I want us to get into them. Let's start first of all with the economy and the removal of taxes, because the NDC has promised same, the NPP is promising same, removing the e-levy and then the betting tax, for instance, is one of the things that two of the main taxes that run across. And my question, Mesa, is, you know, and I'm sure that you have heard this question many times, why can't it be abolished now?
Because it's part of the fiscal policy that has been approved by Parliament. You have a certain revenue and a certain expenditure outlook for 2024. Which includes all the tax handles that the Parliament has approved. Okay, and so if you abolish it now, what that means is that you have to find alternative means to fill whatever gap that abolition will create. And so that's why the Vice President commits that his first budget that he will present to Parliament by March of 2025 would abolish that revenue. Because what it then means is that he would have programmed his revenue handles for the year and accommodate the abolition of the e-levy. Okay, and so that's the reason why it cannot be done now. In any event, like he indicated yesterday, the budget is that of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and he, being the executive president in accordance with Article 58 of the 1992 Constitution, has the power to decide what it is that he wants to roll out. Okay. And His Excellency the Vice President is committing that when he gets the opportunity to govern, this is what he's going to do within the first budget presentation, which then takes account of the revenue handles that he programs to, as it were, run his budget for for 2025. But it's interesting how I was part of the formulation of the NPP manifesto.
He was.
And to suggest that it is full of AI content is something that I take extremely offensive. Okay, because we have evaluated your manifesto.
It's also full of AI content.
I wouldn't describe it as full of AI content, but whatever you put in the internet or on the internet, when you ask AI to pull up a certain data set for you, it is likely to pull up what is already in place. Okay, and so to suggest that the NPP manifesto is AI, full of AI generated content, is really, really demeaning. And I think you should withdraw it, because people actually worked through these proposals that then sought to align the vision that His Excellency the Vice President had put across during his lecture at GIMPA. Okay, flesh it out, is gone through rigorous processes of validation before same was presented to the good people of this country. And those who suggest that it is AI generated content is pretty much offensive. Okay, your manifesto is a clear copy in some respects of what the NPP has promised, what the government is actually implementing now, and what your 2012 manifesto spoke to. Complete recycling. But it's your vision. I'm not going to have any quarrels with you. Okay, that's your vision. And it's surprising that they say in the first 120 days they're going to do all sorts of things. Why? The honeymoon is not going to be sought for anymore. Mr. Mahama doesn't need a honeymoon anymore, like he told us only a few months ago. Look, Sewa, we have committed clearly, and if you look in the abridged version of our manifesto, where we outline the background, where we are coming from as a country, what we inherited, the kinds of things that we've been able to do, that puts us clearly apart from what the NDC had done. And they say they want to reset to where Sam George alludes that when they were leaving the economy, they left Ghana a robust economy. When the IMF, remember, when they left, we were in an IMF program that you had taken us to. 18 months after the commencement of the IMF program, not one of the qualitative and quantitative targets that you set were met. The program that you had gone into the IMF had derailed completely, such that when we came into government, we had to renegotiate. IMF insisted that if the program is not extended, they were going to have to terminate. Remember, Sewa? Do you recall? We were sleeping in darkness for 4 years. Your solution was to compound a financial problem with more, signing all sorts of contracts that led to today 35% of all the cost invoices that we generate from the IPPs are excess capacity payments. You want to reset back to that point? What we are committing is a rebound that we are going to sustain and expand our rebounding economy, because the data speaks to an economy that is recovering from a global pandemic and a war that was not the creation of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his government, but which effect it had on Ghana's economy, such that we had to go through the difficult situation that we've gone through, including restructuring our debt that has impacted some of our citizens, because the alternative would have been worse. And so we recognize the challenges that we have had to face as a country. Okay, that's leadership. It's not the kind of things that Mr. Mahama is saying. When he was president for 4 years, all of a sudden he's gotten a new dream and vision that he could not articulate at the time that he was president. And yet they say that Mr. Mahama, but Dr. Baumia, why is he not implementing the things that he's saying he's going to implement when he becomes president now? He's never been president. And so he's outlined
but
the vision.
He did some of the things.
No, I don't have a problem. Yes, he initiated.
So he couldn't have done everything.
We were told by Mr. Jinapo that Mr. Mahama, when he was president, I was actually listening to the video just before I came into your studio, was only attending social events, and that the serious work of governance was left with the president. I have the interview audio. I was actually listening to it right outside your window before I came in here. What we're going to do, create new jobs. Okay, and we've outlined the program, the incentives that we're going to ensure that those new jobs are created. We're going to implement wide-ranging tax reform that His Excellency the Vice President has outlined clearly his vision in that regard. We say that we're going to reduce the cost of living because we recognize that electricity cost, transportation are key components that drive cost of living in our country. And so the power initiatives that we are intended on rolling out, 2,000 megawatts of power, EV vehicles that we're going to introduce to try and reduce the cost of living for the people of Ghana. We say we're going to expand public infrastructure, better health care that the Akufo-Addo government has started. Of course, because of COVID, we had to learn lessons from ensuring that in the future, when any such eventuality happens, we are fully covered and we have the infrastructure to take care of our citizens. So we're building 111 hospitals across the country. Sewa, you should drive through Takoradi and go and look at Ifya Kwata Regional Hospital, which is being upgraded into a teaching hospital. What is happening there? Across every district of this country, work is ongoing to build these hospitals. We've indicated that we're going to improve our agriculture, okay? Because as a country, agric is a huge component of our economy. And so the investment that we're going to put in there, the one, planting for food and jobs, okay? Planting for development and export, okay? And all that, we're going to put a lot of impetus in that to ensure that we sustain our economy, okay?
You know, back to, yesterday, the Vice President said that in the first 100 days, he's going to scrap the e-levy.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you have all seen the revenue projections for e-levy and what we have made in since it was implemented. How, with all the things that you want to do, you want to scrap it. How do you want to implement these policies?
So what he's saying is that he wants to build an economy that is digital focused. And so because of that, he feels that taxing electronic transactions would discourage people from deploying that kind of economy that he wants to implement. And so he's taken away. But because of the reform, complete reform of the tax system, the tax amnesty that is going to provide, and the simplicity in the taxes, that is going to encourage a lot more people to be tax compliant. In any event, he is indicating that because of his desire to have the private sector play a key role in our infrastructure development, he is going to take away some infrastructure projects that ordinarily government will expend on, so that the private sector can participate in that on a PPP basis, which then means that government expenditure would reduce to sufficiently meet the other social obligations that government has with the revenue that is going to come and the shortage that e-levy would ordinarily